General Manager, Taj City Centre, to kindly come and give the welcome address.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Mr. Mayor here, I'd like to thank you all for joining this wonderful sunny afternoon. And I would like to thank Dr. Tharoor for being here in gracing the occasion and for the launch of his Wonderland of Words, the book that's coming up, and also the launch of the book rack with Prabhakar Khetan Foundation. And you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you. Thank you.
Woman of Kolkata, and it is my privilege to welcome you all today for the launch of Dr. Shashi Tharoor's latest book, A Wonderland of Words, Around the Word in 101 Essays, as well as the launch of the book rack at Taj City Centre. Today's event has been organized by the Prabhakar Khetan Foundation in association with Taj City Centre under the patronage of Sri Cements Limited. A few words about the foundation and its initiatives. As you all know, Prabhakar Khetan Foundation is a Kolkata-based non-profit trust founded by eminent literatore, entrepreneur, philanthropist, social activist and feminist, the late Dr. Prabhakar Khetan, back in the 1980s. Her vision for a better tomorrow and her philosophy, Karm Hi Jeevan Hai, are the driving force behind the foundation's wide spectrum of literary and cultural endeavors in over 50 cities in India and overseas. Of the foundation is the amalgamation of the multicultural diversities of India. Its core philosophy, unity in diversity, is the inspiration for the foundation's journey in connecting thinkers, writers, poets, artists, intellectuals, and cultural enthusiasts through its boutique initiatives, events, and festivals that showcase India's priceless literary and cultural assets. The obvious outcome of all this would naturally be the installation of book racks in various educational institutions and hospitality establishments. In Kolkata, this initiative is taken forward by our association with the Taj Hotels. Our guest of honor this afternoon needs no introduction. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, politician, historian, author, and former diplomat, has been serving as Member of Parliament for Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, since 2009. He has over 24 titles to his credit and was awarded the Global Leader of Tomorrow by the World Economic Forum. Dr. Tharoor, we are honored to have you with us here today. A very warm welcome to Mr. Harshvardhan Neotia, Chairman, Ambuja Neotia Group. Thank you, Mr. Neotia, for joining us on this special occasion. Could I request Dr. Tharoor to please come up, and Ms. Anindita Chatterjee, Executive Trustee of the Foundation, to felicitate Dr. Tharoor. And we will now commence with the launch of Dr. Tharoor's new book, A Wonderland of Words, Around the World in 101 Essays. Of Kolkata, Ms. Malika Verma, Ms. Gauri Basu to come forward, Mr. Indranil Ray, General Manager, Taj City Centre, Manisha Jain, COO of Prabhakar Khetan Foundation. Please join us as well.
I've been involved with for very many years. So Sandeep Puchori, today is very ably represented by Manisha and others. I want to say that they've done some terrific work around the country in promoting books, and we'll be moving on to their book rack, which you'll hear about in a minute, which they have in every hotel or center or institution that hosts their events. For me, doing something with Prabhakaran is always fun because they actually are committed to books and to reading, and they are animated very strongly, as you can see, by lots of reading women, or women readers, might be a better way to say that. And that's something which really matters, I think, in today's world, where more and more we have become used to entertainment in the form of television screens, mobile phone screens, laptop screens, and we no longer pick up books and read. This is a slight departure for me from my usual kinds of recent writing. It's not at all political, for one thing. It's a book about words, about the joy of words, about the use of words, about various aspects, 101 essays, plus a somewhat lengthy introduction and a rather lengthy conclusion, which I hope you'll all enjoy as well. It's meant to be accessible, it's meant to be entertaining, and in the process, if it can also inform and educate, it's purposeful and it's we just launched it on Friday night in Delhi for the first time, and this is therefore the second launch event. It's somewhat smaller than the Delhi one, let's say more exclusive, so delighted to see you all here. Thank you for coming. So I thought I might share with you just a couple of excerpts to give you a flavor of the book, because the truth is that with a book like this, almost anything I read will not be totally representative of everything else. But anyway, this is... This is a couple of short passage from the introduction. I'm besotted with words. It's fair to say that I love them. But even I could not have expressed my love for words as well as a young job seeker called Robert Pirosh did in 1934 when he headed to Hollywood looking for a new career as a screenwriter. Pirosh was working in advertising in New York and had no connection with the American film industry. But he collected the names and addresses of as many directors, producers, and studio executives as he could find, and he sent them this brilliant letter. Dear sir, I like words. I like fat, buttery words such as ooze, turpitude, glutinous, toady. I like solemn, angular, creaky words such as straight-laced, cantankerous, pecunious, valedictory. I like spurious, black-is-white words such as mortician, liquidate, tonsorial, denimon. I like suave V words such as Svengali, svelte, bravura, verve. I like crunchy, brittle, crackly words such as splinter, grapple, jostle, rusty. I like sullen, crabbed, scowling words such as skulk, glower, scabby, churl. I like, oh my heavens, my gracious landsake words such as tricksy, tucker, genteel, horrid. I like elegant, flowery words such as estivate, peregrinate, elysium, halcyon. I like wormy, squirmy, mealy words such as crawl, blubber, squeal, drip. I like sniggly, chuckling words such as cowlick, gurgle, bubble, and burp. I like the word screenwriter better than copywriter, so I decided to quit my job in New York in a New York advertising agency and try my luck in Hollywood. But before taking the plunge, I went to Europe for a year of study, contemplation, and horsing around. I have just returned, and I still like words. May I have a few with you? Many of you can see that no better job application has ever been written in the English language. And I would add no better paean to the marvels and joys of words either. The letter worked. Pirosh landed 3 job interviews, one of which led to a job as a junior writer at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the fabled MGM studios. His career soared. In 1949, 15 years after he wrote this letter, screenwriter Robert Pirosh won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay for his work on the war film battleground. A few months after the Oscar, he also won a Golden Globe Award from the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. These were opportunities he might never have landed if he had not loved words enough to craft such a brilliant letter. So I'll read another excerpt from a subject that I think is familiar to all of us, and that is, here is another. It's from a chapter called Indianisms. I have not immodestly considered myself the inventor of the word people. I came up with it at St. Stephen's in 1972. We used it extensively in conversation and employed it in an article in JS magazine soon after. Prepone as a back construction from postpone seemed to me so much simpler to a teenage collegian than clunkily saying, could you move that appointment earlier? Or I would like to advance that deadline. Or please bring it forward to an earlier date. Over the years, I was gratified to see how extensively its use had spread in India. But I was wrong. In keeping with the long-standing wisdom that there is nothing new under the sun, I was told by Catherine Henstridge of the Oxford English Dictionary, no less, that they have an example of the use of the word prepone from 1913 in a letter to the editor of the New York Times. It didn't catch on much in the West, but the proceedings of the 1952 Indian Science Congress revealed that other Indians thought along the same lines as we. Quote, in Indian villages, demand for power can be preponed or postponed not only by hours, but even by days. So clearly the origin of prepone had been preponed from 1972 to 1913, and I duly withdraw any claim to its origination. Mind you, I can still make a case through frequent usage for being somewhat involved in its popularization. Still, the persistence and survival of what is called Indian English, often with a sneer as if to differentiate it from the Queen's proper English, deserves to be taken seriously. Our English spoken without the shadow of Englishman looming over us is a vigorous and local language, which draws strength from local roots. If Americans can say fall for autumn and gotten for have got, though both are archaisms in England itself, why can't Indians say furlong, fortnight, and do the needful, even if these have fallen out of use centuries ago in London? So many words in Indian English, including prepone, have stood up to the only test that matters, the test of time and usage. If enough people find a word or phrase useful, it is, to my mind, legitimate. Indian English is a living, practical language used by millions every day for practical purposes. I'm not referring to expressions like satyagraha, namaste, or yogi that have passed into the English language and are used exactly as they are in India. I'm referring to the usage of English words differently in India from the Anglophone West. Many phrases we take for granted in ordinary conversation are actually quite unusual abroad. Calling elders auntie or uncle, for instance, or using the expression non-veg to convey a willingness to eat meat. That doesn't make them wrong or even quaint, it just makes them Indian. Some Indian English was created by our media and passed into regular usage. Ash, Chief Minister Ash to Delhi. And history sheeter. The police explained that habitual criminal X was a history sheeter, that is, he had a long criminal record. Some, like my prepone, came from school and college campuses. Mugging, as in cramming hard for an exam with much rote learning and memorization involved, uses a word that means two very different things to Americans or Brits abroad. A criminal assault by a robber for the Americans, as in she was a victim of a mugging in a dark alley. Or an elaborate and often comically exaggerated expression, as in he was mugging for the camera. When an Indian student tells an American or a Brit that he was mugging for an exam, bewilderment is guaranteed. Yet it's a vivid word that conveys exactly what is intended for every user of Indian English. So the way Indians speak the English language is often distinctive but not necessarily incorrect. Some Indian Englishisms are, of course, merely translated from an Indian language. What is your good name? Is a classic. Since all Bengalis, for instance, have a dark noun, they are called by, and a bhado noun for good name for the record. But what is your good name is still the most polite form in any Indian version of the English language for finding out the identity of your interlocutor. Is he your real brother? Someone asks. Not to accuse you of having imaginary siblings, but to differentiate this brother from a cousin, who is also referred to as my brother by affectionate Indians. Such cultural assumptions inevitably influence language. The widespread preference for, or at least acceptability of vegetarianism in India makes Indian English the only language that uses the expression non-veg for meat, fish, and those who consume them. The Indian arranged marriage culture has also had its impact on our local English. Our matrimonial ads have created their own cultural tropes, with expressions that only mean something in Indian English. British complexion, of course, and better still, traditional with modern outlook. Many ads require a prospective bride in India to be homely. Now, in English or American, that means rather plain, right? But here in India, it means home-loving and a good housekeeper. And to have passed out, not fainted or lost consciousness as the Brit or American might assume, but graduated from a convent school. In other words, a school established by a missionary order when the medium of instruction is English. Now, some Indianisms are creative uses of an ordinary English word or phrase to reflect a particularly Indian sensibility, such as kindly adjust, then apologetically by the seventh person slipping into a bench meant for four. We have nothing to apologize about. We should defiantly celebrate their use as integral parts of our Indian English vocabulary. After all, we are like that only. And if you don't like it, kindly adjust. There's a lot more, but I think I'll take it tomorrow. So that's the Wonderland of words, and just to say that, you know, I just gave you two extracts, but there's all sorts of other stuff. There's discussions of punctuation, apostrophes, hyphens, the absurdities of spelling, various grammatical rules, everything from misprints and headlines to typos and how they work, word origins, idioms, something semi-political like the language of colonization, something borderline offensive like literary insults, then a discussion, and these are all short light chapters on literary tools, alliteration, anagrams, aptograms, anaphora, acronyms, backronyms, contronyms, all of these things are discussed in a amusing way. There's also a bit of humor tossed in, including a section on Captain Haddock's expletives, which some of you will know about. Woodhouseian words is another one. So it's basically a collection of lots and lots of reflections on language, on how we use it around the world, how it's come to be, and how it's growing and continuing to change every year. One of the last few chapters is about these new words that the Oxford English Dictionary and Collins and others announce every year that they've incorporated in their dictionaries that didn't exist the previous year. So there's a lot happening like that. So it's just about language, practically no politics. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Launch of the book rack. So Dr. Tharoor would just place one book on the rack.
have disturbed and bringing us time and coming in, gracing us and honoring this hotel. And it's wonderful launch of the book that Dr. has written and the launch of the book rack from Pravak Khaitan Foundation. We're grateful for the initiative. And we thank you all for your wonderful time.